Greetings and salutations, all my beloved. Here I am. All my beloved airborne simians, and what up to any visiting sports fans? You know what I'm thinking right now. To the Mahomes Football League. I am excited to be on with my friend, Tom Althouse. And when I say friend, I mean it. We have conversations off the air, which qualifies Tom as a friend. So, very excited to have Tom back for a couple of different reasons. One is the passing of someone I call Mary Lion's Paw. The rest of the world knows as 700 Club founder Pat Robertson. And if you are unfamiliar with Tom and his background, you are in for a treat. Because if there's anybody to give you the real dirt on Pat Robertson, it's Tom Althouse. So, listen, real quick, and Tom will fill in the blanks. It's a pet peeve of mine to have a host go, "So, guest, tell us about yourself." Okay, Tom is an amazing personality who makes the believable claim that he is the mind behind the incredibly what did we say the number was? Is it in the billions now of the Matrix series?
It is.
And through his life journey, through the 700 Club, it's now Regent. What was it? What was it before? Was it 700 Club University?
CBN University.
Okay, CBN University. They attempted to groom Tom as some sort of male consort for these Luciferian scum from Pat Robertson on down to his minions. They are intimately connected with the Jesuits at the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Inquisition, also known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the government. Also tied intimately to Hollywood, and you need to go back and watch the 5 or 6 different streams that we've done with Tom in the past to get the shocking, sickening details. But this is why I brought Tom back on, in order to talk about the death. And I tell you, Tom, these Luciferians managed to hold on to life until their 80s and 90s. As the Billy Joel, of course, born Jewish but raised Catholic. Key to his success: only the good die young. So what were you? How are you? What is that? Is that a Greek shield in the background? That's great.
Yeah, it's a Greek shield.
That's great. Doc Philippe's in the house. So, catch us up and tell us your thoughts and your feelings on the death of Mary Lion's Paw.
Well, I've caught some flack recently for when I'm doing interviews talking about Robertson, Marion, which is his real name as you present it, because I've said I was relieved. And I think I have every right to say I'm relieved, because he has been the one that's the glue and the kingpin, basically, or linchpin in the cabal's machinery, basically. He really has been. Sometimes they put clownish figures as their top public viewed figures. And that's part of way of operation of protection, like the curtain, concealing what's really going on behind. And so Robertson was very demonstrative about his dislikes, likes, lusts, wants, desires, and how he felt about women and everything else. So when I was being groomed by him to be the face
Tom,
of the
flesh that out. Flesh that out, Tom, how he feels about women. Flesh that out a little.
Oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of clips where you'll see him talking about discussing a young girl who had been raped. And he'll say that she deserved it because she dressed a certain way. A party where a man is divorced his wife, or a man is cheated on his wife. Robertson will come on at that point and say that the woman deserved it because she didn't do enough to keep her man.
And what that begs, Tom, not to step on you, but what that begs is a deeper psychological breakdown of what could very well be, and of course, as you know personally, is someone who was actually sexually attracted to other men and had a deep-seated hatred and fear of women. and it
Exactly.
comes out in his ridiculous statements. And of course, he is now a caricature of Christians, Protestant Christians, that everyone else can mock.
Exactly. And you're spot on, Johnny. What you have is a man showing so much anger towards women and so much hatred towards women, but yet he wants to be adored by women. And yet he had a sex ring that he was part of, which focused on young men. So it's, and he used his position to offer careers and positions like being the face of the Christian coalition, all the promises with it, that you would then become is in a sense pull boy, you know. So basically that's what you have. And these other, you're going to see a lot more evangelicals or evangelicists, whatever, leaders in that field having these skeletons in the closet. You're going to see it all over the place because they partied amongst themselves, they shared these people. And I was one of the first things you hear when you're brought into the circle is you're going to be introduced to all these different guys, all these different top people, and you're supposed to be in awe of their celebrity nature. It's pretty wild. It's part of the gameplay.
You were going to CBN University
Mhm.
when you already had the majority of the Matrix written down, and it was here that the underground started to work against you, and the word was spread. As long as you were being courted and courted as some sort of a consort, that they were going to make things happen for you. And as soon as you said you're not going to play ball, that was it. That you're free game. And because they own the top law enforcement, or they're part of the cabal that includes the top law enforcement in the country, they felt that you were completely fair game. They could do whatever they wanted to you. They could kill your two sons. They could ruin your life. They could play with you. They could dangle women in front of you to become your wife and then yank them away because they were on the payroll. And so this is who Pat Robertson was. So if you lay that out first, then everyone else can go blank themselves in relation to how you say you're relieved that he's now judged. They have to first understand what you have experienced. Because if they don't, then oh wow, that was so what's wrong with you? That was so insensitive. Oh, you're Steven Anderson. I'm making a joke there of the Baptist pastor who is actually an incognito Jesuit that says the most outrageous things in order to mock real Christian pastors. So that was his goal. He was the Donald Trump of Christian public figures. His goal was to embody Christianity, as Donald Trump is supposedly embodies right-wing values, and then to be an absolute fool and caricature of those values that can easily be mocked.
Right. His goal was to crumble society, to replace it with a one world order, which we know now is common. Back then, when I was writing, it wasn't, but a one world order where it would be a Jesuit theocracy and he would be the head of it. And so that's exactly what he wanted. And he wanted Israel to stamp on board with his goals. And he had his whole following waving Israeli flags and everything at his meetings and such, as like Nuremberg things. And so what you have was a step in line, goose step in line, where Israel, a lot of leaders of Israel didn't want to get behind Pat Robertson's plan. And it's kind of stunning and chilling what the plans were. And that's why you have a Law and Justice Center with Jay Sekulow, the failed salesman from Florida, who then becomes the head of this Law and Justice Center. And Robertson makes no bones about it on his site. Now he is bones, but basically he's saying, this is so I have conservative decisions in his favor. So he's no longer a second-class citizen. Nothing about serving the public or the world or humanity. It's about his own goals of getting his way. And that's what fell into my situation with my intellectual property. But he has his own attorneys then under Jay Sekulow, salesman, ending up in Jerusalem. And they're not just working with other attorneys in Jerusalem. They're working with the military leaders and attorneys in Jerusalem. And so it's no surprise that in Ukraine, we have the Pentagon, Robertson's elements, Fitzpatrick, who I talked about, who's a big fan of Robertson, destabilizing Ukraine getting rid of people in charge so that they can put in their puppets and actors. It's the same goal, the same thing. Law and Justice Center, worldwide corruption, bringing together a one focused leader. And that's what the whole screenplay was whispering through art, like you said when I was writing there, what Robertson's plans
Here's
were.
a weird coincidence that I have. I knew that I had seen 14 May, the birthday of Israel, in your folder.
Mhm.
I'll share this archived. I have this archived on a Word document. The death of Lenny Coco as presented on Newsday, and this was published on May 14th, 2015.
Oh my God. Hold on. Can you scroll it up one more time? Not to take away from your broadcast, but I've got to take a picture of that. Hold on. That is a great, fantastic find because they killed my son, Sean, on the Ides of March.
March 15th, right?
That's right. That's right. And so here we have him dying at this special point, of course, because he had said on tape that he is going to talk, that he does want me to write his life story after they had called him twice during this one conversation we had where he wasn't supposed to admit that he had known me or had me pitch a screenplay through him to Bonaventura and that I was supposed to be called crazy. In the end, he switched around and said, you were here, you did do these things, and they killed him.
Yeah, that was so. Lenny died on May 8th, but Newsday published that on May 14th. Lenny and Lenny was part of the connection through to Bonaventura of stealing your work.
Yes, Lenny Coco's daughter-in-law was named Nadia Centino. Nadia Centino entered into my life, became part of my housemate's world, my world, and just wouldn't let go. Turns out she was a student of Pat Robertson's, going to his school, and with a connection with Lenny Coco, made sure my script got to Lenny Coco and right in the hands of Bonaventura, and they'd had me come up and pitch it at Lenny Coco's home to Bonaventura. It was a total setup. So
yeah, I can't believe to this day that somehow you were able to make a connection with the bank teller that took Bonaventura that day, and Bonaventura bragging, "We've got a winner in this script right here, boy. We've got a winner."
She contacted me. And it was like, she said, the gentleman came in, said who he was, and he just started boasting about having this great screenplay he discovered. It's this revolutionary screenplay. Yeah. At a bank in Albany, New York.
Doc, do you have anything to throw out there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Yeah. No. I'm glad to be here listening to Tom. I had a question for him, like regarding Pat Robertson, right? Because he died 93 years old, I think, right? I was wondering, like, if from like the interaction you had with him, or with these people, have you noticed any moment, like any remorse or any kind of second thoughts from these guys, or like?
That's a great question.
Yeah, as they're living their lives as total Luciferians, have they ever shed any remorse for being? I mean, a guy like Robertson who puts forth to go so hard and deceive. And go back to the gallery. I'll tell you, Tom, I can't think of anything more condemning to the soul, especially if you are a Christian, than to target Christians for deception, for malignant deception, to deceive them for their harm. If you have any belief whatsoever in Jesus Christ as God, is to pick the people that follow him in order to deceive them and harm them. That, to me, that is the ultimate condemnation of your soul. That is you're begging for your damnation. Whether it's eternal or not is another debate we're having. And any remorse from any of these individuals when you were interacting with them?
None at all. None whatsoever at all. In fact, you hear a lot of boasting from a seat of arrogance all the time, and there is no cohesive loyalty among the group. In fact, Robertson's own attorney said that, lamented basically that Robertson's friends, everything in his circle, his world circle, is held together by money. Well, all right. get a personality then.
How's
The
that
thing
working
is
for him
that,
now, right?
yeah, how's that working for him now? And so the rule of thumb, basically, when you first arrive at the university, I'm glad this question was brought up, and your response is eloquent also, is you're taught that anyone who's not part of Pat Robertson's circle or called to be to it in the religious realm is outside of God's favor, outside of the church, and is second class, fair game. You're allowed to take their wives, you're allowed to take their property, you're allowed to take anything because God wants you to thrive if you're part of that 700 club. And so, or in the inner circle. And that's what we were taught. When I was being groomed to be the face of Christian Coalition, I was told I could have anything I wanted. In fact, the Congress had wanted to, or IRS had contacted to check records, and he said he doesn't answer to any governing body, only to God. That was his excuse that he had Tim Robertson pass on, that he wouldn't appear before Congress or any other body. So very convenient when he dictates what God says. And also, he had that law of reciprocity. And we have a clip where he's talking about that law. And he has the audacity to go further to say that you can basically bind God by his own laws and become rich with his book, Secret Kingdom and the Law of Reciprocity, the chapter in it, where you can bind God by his own rules and become wealthy and God can't do anything about it. The audacity that that man had. And I think there must be another layer to Dante's Inferno. There really must be.
Go ahead, Doc. We have discussed this regularly. As a matter of fact, before I share his book, Secret Kingdom, that they have to, Tom, they have to live in an alternate reality. That they're so deluded that they what is real to normal human beings, either physically or spiritually, is not real to them. They have to. We shared how Arnold Schwarzenegger recently bragged that there is no heaven. He's got no worries. Essentially what he's under in between the lines is he's got nothing to worry about because there is no heaven. There's no accounting for a lifetime of dirty deeds. They all must believe this, right, Doc?
Yeah, that's what I was.
We shared Pope Francis and Superior General Arturo Sosa both have made remarks in relation to how there is no hell, there is no devil. They have to believe this in order to do what they do, in order to be so incredibly boldly evil. They have to believe that there's, and this is why when we have debates over doctrine, Christian doctrine, over the concept of annihilationism, that the condemned will, be disappeared. This is my concern in relation to that doctrine, is they rely on this concept of annihilationism. I can do whatever I want to because I'm just going to disappear when I die. No, there's punishment. If a condemned soul is annihilated, you're going to get punished first. It's just going to be something you are so sorry that you're dealing with. I cut you off, Doc. Finish your thought.
No, yeah, I agree. I think these people, they must construct something on their mind, right, to keep living on like that and not be afraid of anything after they're gone, right, or any consequences, right, for their actions.
Yeah, it's in that again. I'm stepping on you, but in that regard, it's you can see that as they are deceivers and they are ultimately deceived.
Yeah, they're the most deceived. Yeah.
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I have not read The Secret Kingdom, Tom. But it's these are all Gnostic, Freemasonic, Luciferian symbols here that have nothing to do with Christianity. Right there on the cover, but
if you do glance at it, look at the law of reciprocity, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's unbelievable that he actually believes you can bind God by his own rules. I would not want to be in the room right now where he's facing.
Yeah.
Be there.
Because certainly the being that is all powerful, that knows the beginning from the end, will allow himself to be twisted and tied by his own. That makes perfect sense. No, not really.
I envision Pat Robertson blaming others, blaming his team, blaming his attorneys, blaming everybody else. That's what probably is going to be happening.
Tom, do you know if how about his wife or his children? They are all in on it, or how?
Very good question. If you notice, I want to take that sideways. Dee Dee, his wife Dee Dee, his actual wife, never really showed up on the camera. I mean, not to my knowledge very often. You may find a photo of her somewhere where they got a photo, but she did not appear on the programs. He always had ex Miss Americas or ex, singers and things like this. So he had that image of beautiful women with him, which I think goes back to what Johnny, you were saying, the coverage for being his orientation.
Yeah.
And so what you have is that was fed constantly. It's almost like the joke they do in Tropic Thunder with the guy who's the character's actually gay, the actor, and they do a big thing with Jack Black going back and forth with them, and he's talking about I love women, I love sex, I love women, way over the top. In fact, Dee Dee never appearing, it shows how he was basically all about the politics of it, not about family at all. So you can imagine those kids, wealthy as they were, probably did not have the best home because it was all about daddy's need. And where did that center around? That Manhattan decision, where he decided again, a pastor who was very wealthy, I don't know if it's a Southern Baptist pastor, had come to visit Dee Dee and Pat or Marion. And they were not succeeding as being successful in Manhattan. They wanted to be part of the big scene and known as, art collectors, things like that. And it wasn't working. It wasn't working out so well for him. His personality didn't cut it. So this pastor comes along, takes him to dinner, and has this fancy car and nice meal, nice clothes. And Pat Robertson basically is getting quoted as saying, "You mean you can have all that by doing this, or all this by doing that?" And that's when he makes the decision to suddenly be evangelical. In his own Pat Robertson's perspective, which is his newsletter, he talks about the evangelical demographic base as being one of the dumbest there is on the earth. In his own perspective, I guess, to try to prove it, since that's his readers.
That's brilliant. So, Doc, great find. Dee Dee Robertson died on April 19th in 2022. So, Tom, April 19th is the ultimate boogie date of Waco. Columbine is the 20th. Mirror building, on and on. Just a whole host of tragedies that have occurred. Some of them overtly by design, and some of them accidental. The ultimate April 19th was April 19th, 1541, where Ignatius Loyola became the very first superior general of the Jesuits. So fascinating that Dee Dee, the beard, Robertson's beard, Marion Lyons Paul's beard, died on April 19th during the scamdemic. Doc, did the Corona hoax claim Dee Dee, or did they say?
I don't see anything here, but
okay.
yeah.
So once again, I'm saying not today. We've mentioned on previous shows, Pat Robertson, net worth like $100 million. The Christian, did he claim to be a pastor? Can you really $100 million? Mark of the Beast. Mark of the Beast has nothing to do with whether or not you can eat, put food on the table and a roof over your head. That's the mark of the beast. $100 million is the mark of the beast. Whether you can prosper that much. Tom, anything on little Gordo that's now running CBN?
Oh, he's going to step in line under his dad's for the benefit of it. I don't think they were close, from what I understand, from what I hear. But he's going to definitely try to capitalize on the empire continuing. But he doesn't have that chutzpah, whatever it is, to keep it going. He doesn't have the ability. I think as a son raised under a corrupt, powerful father with a lot of money, stereotype usually leans to, and reality usually leans to, often, a person who's not going to be that dedicated, sort of like Caligula, as the emperor, and the first one that actually had a father. Yeah. And so he's not going to be that dedicated. He's more dedicated to the women he can have and the money he can have. So
Tom did. So I didn't know this, Doc. Tom, apparently Gordo is a Yaley.
Yeah. Yes, a Yaley.
So I wonder that you would never see whether Gordo was a member of one of the myriad of Yale secret societies, not just Skull and Bones, but just a whole scrolling key, snake and book, Elmo, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it certainly does bring up, and of course, Yale is just a hotbed of CIA recruiting there as well. So can't help but wonder those things about little Gordon Perry.
Robertson saw life as a chess game. And that's what I'm told. The cabal often quotes that idea as a chess game. And they'll say that I won the chess game at certain aspects. And keep in mind that he despised me because he lost his presidential campaign twice in 1988. He was apparently resubmitting or something. And his attorneys relayed to me that he blames me for the loss of his campaign because of the whole Sova affair, the affair where his communications professor, who became associate dean, had taken me on the trip and spilled the beans about Council Presbyterian Church, David Anderson, the pastor, stepping forward and confessing that Pat Robertson and the head of his school, grad school at the time, had relations with him. And there was a rampant sex ring operating. He confessed to a 2,000 strong congregation.
Now you paid for this information with him drugging and sexually assaulting you. Okay, so
yes, I did. I paid heavily, and I still have a bit of the effects from that. I mean, I cannot get rid of the visuals of that time, and it was a horrid situation. And someday I'll walk through every detail of the effects of it, leaving out disgusting as much as I can. But you need to see how they play by play, entrap like a spider in a web, young men, and what they promise them, how the whole psychological narrative goes, and how they even turn the heat up. It was a heat wave in his motorhome at Cherry Hill campsite, right near in Washington D.C., where it was like 100-some degrees, and he left the air conditioning off at night and walked around in his Speedo underwear, red Speedo underwear. Still see it, disgusting. This old guy, and he's roofied you. And so he comes up to the bunk part where I was on the top, sleeping in my clothes. I'm going to sleep in my clothes if I had to be there. He had said, don't bring any money. They entrap you. And then he says, won't you be more comfortable down here? This is after a whole litany of talk where he made a communal popcorn bowl and started talking about like tactile touching. And they want to talk about how CBN is going to go down, Robertson's going to fall. Only those students that are grafted to professors are going to make it. And so therefore you better be on board with me. Then you hear a chorus later of lonely, how lonely, how lonely, how lonely. My wife knows about this. She's fine with it. You can't leave. We're going to be here 7 days. We'll just play. It's unbelievable what you find out. And that's when it surfaced in trying to convince me that I need to do what he says in order to thrive, to have my family thrive.
The spelling of that last name, is it S-O-B-A?
S-O-V-A. There's actually Sova sex toys. S-O-V-A. Harry Sova, who's now
with a V as in Victor. Okay.
That's right. At Liberty University. They transferred him to Liberty University, just like the Catholic Church will run priests around that are caught. Robertson does the same thing. So a lot of his dumping ground for caught criminals is Liberty University, and Jerry Falwell was very happy to open the gates to
I don't mean to disturb you. I've got the picture from Liberty here. I'll put that on the
Please.
screen. Hopefully it doesn't trigger you.
It always affects me, but I'll be
creep.
good. Yeah, that monster. That's the monster right there. That's the monster worse than Pat Robertson himself. And that's the one that took me on the trip. Before going on the trip, he said that, we'd be going with a bunch of professors. It would help my career. I'd be his grad student. I could use his motorhome, gave me the keys to it, a copy of the keys. He said that I'd be working on his Opus Magnus, his great literary work, which is basically just excerpts of all communication journals, but they already had that at the Library of Congress. They already had done that digitally. So it was a waste of time.
His masters came from Indiana University. You know what Indiana University also did? Sponsored and ran all of the experiments for Alfred Kinsey.
Wow. Well, his question to a former friend of mine that got bought out, Brad Carr. I invested in Brad Carr's company, had people-to-people, $5,000 in, never was contacted again because he was told that if he worked with me or had any contact with me, verbal contracts would be canceled by Robertson's group. But the question that Harry Sova gave to Brad Carr during his oral comps was, how would you treat a gay individual in your company? That was his oral comp question for his masters. And the reason was because Harry wanted to work with Brad.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So,
I got something for you. Go ahead.
How I don't understand how couldn't they consider what Sova had confided in you, that he was a sex partner of Robertson? I'm not quite sure how he can blame you if they still have a lid on it. It's not like it went from you onto the New York Times, because the CIA owns the New York Times. They own propaganda anyway. Just merely confiding this in you was enough to destroy his aspirations to become president?
Well, they're afraid of what had happened, where I was actually assaulted and came back, and I wasn't blowing a whistle. I was just trying to say, I'll forgive him. I just want him to have some help. When they pushed on me about what happened, they knew it happened to me, so they forced me to go to a meeting. And at that meeting, it was to destroy my life. And that's where these letters come from, that meeting. And you have, what's interesting, you just opened the door to me on this one. You have October 21st, 1988, and you have signatories on the letter that were waiting in the next room when I was being told I could keep my jobs, my education, just tell us what happened on the trip. Same signatories, same date of the letter. So 2 letters are crafted, one to me, one to Sova. No one's ever supposed to see the Sova letter, right? In mine, it says some chilling things. I'll try to brief this. And I don't know if I said
give details where you need to. We got time.
Well, Eugene Elser was a professor from Indiana, a lawyer from Indiana. He said that I should trust him, that he'd be bound by ethics, so I should trust him. Well, that was a mistake.
The lawyer was bound by ethics.
Yeah, and he said that letters were carefully crafted by all the parties that were waiting in the next room. So this letter was carefully crafted to make sure I lost my jobs, education, friends, everything. And the chilling statement, I think, really, is that he says on the other page, where was that one about the trust, that I'm to trust only their people as God's calling. It says that my GA position is gone, my jobs are gone, my education, I only had to take my orals and my written comps for my master's. So I was ready to take my master's. So they erased, so I was going to get my finals this week at the time. And so what they did was they said, well, we're going to remove you from your courses, erase it from your record. I was all A's. And since you're out of school in between terms, we're going to erase, call it 2 terms out. And so you're out of school. I only have a week to go for my master's and had fantastic grades. And so what they did was, therefore, you have to get out of housing, take your family out of the housing immediately. Your jobs are canceled. You're not allowed to go to anybody outside. You have to have our counselor. And when you desire to resume your studies, we request that you participate, Elser said it's a demand, in counseling at CBN University Counseling Center as a condition of your being allowed to continue your studies. Heinz Schonoff, who's on there, became Dean of Students and Head of Counseling jointly, right when this was done, so that he would be the controller of my situation, and said, you'll never get in here. You're done. You're destroyed. It's over. You know, and Elser said it's over. You know what it means. So Heinz Schonoff, who was an ex-Nazi from a Nazi family, didn't even have his green card. That's who Robertson employed. Listen to the names and tell me if it's not German sounding. Schlosser, Schonoff, Elser. You know, these are, yeah. Anyway, so what you have is, he said, what was it about the thing about you're at fault for this. It's, you misconstrued everything about Sova. I think that you can see that angry outbursts, accusations, and counter accusations and denials are not helpful. I didn't do any of that. So on the basis of what you have told me, I do not think that you should further discuss this matter. They want to put a lid on it, of course. If there's any facts that you have not mentioned to me, I would be glad to hear them. Of course you would. Now, Sova's letter is very interesting. No one's ever supposed to see this. In this letter, it talks about this. He's a repeat offender. He's done this before. Drinking beers against university policy, taking a loan with a student over several nights in your RV is against the policies. It aggravates the situation, the offense, by buying the beer. Discussing the matters about homosexuality and sexual assault or rape and your experiences is not appropriate and clearly improper. Obviously, you felt it necessary to talk with other faculty and possibly even students to clear your name or to seek counsel. Robertson's team's whole rule of thumb, they argued, was that no one ever said anything about me to anyone. Well, Sova and these other transcripts show they were talking all the time. And even on the stand, get this, on the stand, on this trial where they totally bought the attorney, Sova confessed everything. He did the Jack Nicholson from
Wait, give me what's the reason for the trial again?
It was where slander, where they had the meetings, and it's in the letter. They had the meetings. So
who was the defendant? Who was the plaintiff?
Eugene Elser, Harry Sova, Heinz Schonoff, and they destroyed the court records. They destroyed them.
You were the defendant?
No, I was the plaintiff.
You were the plaintiff. They were the defendants, and they admitted to it.
So we brought all this evidence forward. They moved Heinz Schonoff to Hawaii, but what they did was Sova got on the stand, and get this. This may blow your minds. The actual real life attorney from A Few Good Men, where Tom Cruise, I think it was, played the attorney himself, was hired by Robertson's firm, Huff-Pool Mahoney. He's not a good guy. He's not like the movie depicts, because Sova did a Jack Nicholson. Sova got on the stand and started losing it, going like, we needed something to protect ourselves. Yes, we had the meetings. Of course we did. We needed something to protect ourselves. Their group attorneys, one stands up and goes, you don't mean that. You don't mean that. Sova said, yes, I do. He did a Jack Nicholson. Now you would think the credits would start to roll after we got them and we'd celebrate, right? The own real life attorney from A Few Good Men is there, but he's on the other side of it. So what they did was they had their friend, Judge Friedman, take an intermission break for lunch in the middle of Sova's confession and testimony. Keep in mind, the judge says, you should not be discussing this case during lunch. What my attorney saw, who then bought out, keep in mind there was a $50,000 settlement offer before this even started, because the judge said, you need to settle this. There's no way with all this evidence you'll ever prevail to Robertson's group. So what happens is Sova at the lunch table had all the attorneys huddled over him, dictating what to write. He didn't eat a bite. As soon as we reconvene after lunch, Judge Friedman says, I understand you have a letter. And the attorney said, yes, Dr. Sova has a letter he'd like to read to the court with your permission. And he says, okay, I'll allow it. Written during lunch? I thought we weren't supposed to discuss the case. So it begins like this, Johnny. When I said this, I meant this. When I said this, I meant this. When I said this, I meant this. He's reading it. The Sova letter then was not allowed to be shown to the jury. They allowed the psych guy for Robertson to go out of turn before they throw the case in the summary judgment to declare me everything under the sun, from narcissistic to paranoid schizophrenic, Robertson's guy. Then they go to summary judgment, where the Friedman didn't give any reasons, just said, I have 30 pages of notes, I'm dismissing it. No reasons given. What about the Sova letter? What about his confession? The jury was shaking their heads no. Keep in mind that Judge Friedman allowed his friend to stay from the Virginia Pilot, Robertson's go-to paper in Virginia Beach. But CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, all were told to leave. Only his friend was left to write a damning article you can still find online that said that I was all these terrible things. Now, Mansheim, the Dr. Mansheim, who they hired, had a letter of instruction from Pat Robertson's team to find me, to be able to say in layman's terms, crazy and dangerous with a gun, because he wanted to cover the slander that Sova was talking about. So Robertson was actually legitimizing slander by getting a psych party of his choice, paid well with a letter of instruction, to find me whatever he wanted. That has haunted me ever since. They never let it go. Interesting that Joel Silver has a character named Manning. I put Manning in the original screenplay. He put Manning later. Manning represents Paul Mansheim, the go-to guy, to start the anonymous cycle, where you have anonymous approaching every job, every loved one, every interest, and telling them not to use you, and showing the letter. In fact, the honeypot wife was shown it in a deposition back in 2016, where it was brought up, but the attorney said it's the only exhibit they don't want entered as an exhibit. Robertson's man. Robertson controlled the show from the very beginning, on set and onward. I was told by a doctor he would never stop. He would always go, so write the book or disappear and change your name because he will never stop. He said it's like the firm. Robertson never stopped. And that doctor was destroyed. His reputation was ruined in a public melee of articles.
What was the slander?
The slander was that I'm glad you brought that up, because in Robertson's own letter, he spells it out to back it. Robertson's own letter. Here it is. I'm glad you brought that up. Pat Robertson's signature. There's Marion's signature. Not to me. He doesn't have the balls enough. He writes it to my wife at the time, because he plays the women. In this, it says this: trusted people. What does that mean? Trusted people say? Trusted people say that your husband reported that he was abused as a child and that by his own words, he keeps a firearm. I didn't. But there's crazy and dangerous with a gun. That's the slander, Johnny, to answer your question. The word is that he was requested to take counseling from a spiritually mature counselor. Heinz Schonoff doesn't even have a degree in counseling. He's an ex-Nazi.
Does counseling include being drugged and sexually assaulted?
According to them, it doesn't have any bearing.
Okay.
I have no other witness against Dr. Sova other than your husband. In fact, one person said, now get this, guys. In fact, one person said, I will stake my life that he's not a homosexual. Well, there you go. I mean,
all right. So wait, you made a public statement about Sova's. Listen. Being homosexual is one thing. Being predatory about any sexuality is quite another.
Yes. So I didn't make a public statement about homosexuality with Sova at the time. I didn't. And you're absolutely right. In fact, you brought up a very good reminder point that on the trip, Sova said, you have to understand there's militant homosexuals. We're using the church because the church is supposed to be about love.
We're fighting those. We prefer homosexuality to be under behind the scenes and after drugs.
So there you go. The key element that was fed to me too, besides David Geyertson covering for Kempston Presbyterian Church and David Anderson, the key point is there's a militant sect using the church to get their agenda, where Robertson wanted a one world order where he can do whatever he wants with all the little boys.
Tom, is there any record of this court case? I was looking up real quick.
They erased it. All you'll see is an article in Virginia Pilot saying that I lost, that I was insane, that I was dirty and deadly.
There is no Althouse v. Sova, Hawaii District Court, etc.
Well, this would be in Virginia Beach itself. This is way back in 1993.
This took place in Virginia. Okay.
It's like 1993. So when I'm pitching the screenplay in 1993 to Bonaventura by their invitation, this court case is going to convene that very next week. Isn't that something? Within a week or so, I'm before the judge with the Robertson situation. So Robertson wanted to shut it down. That's why he wanted the screenplay cleansed and controlled. And get this, I think you'll find this interesting. David Geyertson is the one that took over Kempston Presbyterian Church to handle the shutdown and cover up. Did I read this to you at all? His entry?
Go ahead. No.
Okay, so first you're going to need to see the front, because they're big on saying everything's a forgery, even the copyright itself. They love saying forgery. So here's David Geyertson. This is Robertson's top PR man, public relations man, not divinity, public relations. He also is deeply connected. Let's get the background. Deeply connected. And what's funny about this, he marks it, puts it online, posts it online, marks it confidential. So he has no brain. So what happens is you have at the back all these selected recent consultations, his creative works, academic appointments. He was a very busy boy. Mentoring project Hollywood Connect, Burbank, California. Leadership transitions consultant, which means how to cover up things. Christian Broadcasting Associates, Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. Leadership coach and organizational consultant, leadership coach, administrative consultant, Sodium Entertainment Productions, Burbank, California, higher education leadership placement, leadership operations content consultant, leadership coach, president, Westmont College, Santa Barbara, California. He was Robertson's connection to the studios at Disney and Universal that allowed Ned and Judy Nankovich, letterheads from Disney, to get top positions, coveted positions from the East Coast to the West Coast in the story development departments at Universal and Disney in 1993, where they got all my work submitted directly, where Mike Lang surfaces, who provides the honeypot wife, and you go on and on from there. What's interesting is David Gerhardson has an entry about Kensfield Presbyterian Church. So I find this after Sova does what he does and says it. So I want to see if it's true. It's true. And it's worse than you can imagine. So from June 1985 to May 1986, that's a year. A man without a divinity degree, who's a public relations master, is the head of a church as an interim senior minister. Kensfield Presbyterian Church, Virginia Beach, Virginia, interim senior minister. Now, will he say why he's there? Will he spill the beans on the approachment and what the man shared, the pastor shared with the congregation about Robertson? Let's see how they reword it. In his words, as a PR man for Robertson, well paid. Interim senior minister, served as the interim senior minister for a 2,000-member PCEUSA congregation while they searched for a new pastor. We're getting there. Supervised a staff of about 20 full-time employees and ministers and managed a budget of about $1.5 million. They're not small potatoes. They should be able to find a minister pretty quickly. Here we go. Stabilized the congregation after the loss of the previous pastor due to a moral failure. Now that's how you butter up PR language. Next, provided direction for the development of a new strategic plan, how to cover it all up, and assisted with the transition to a new senior minister, so Robertson had his say. Left when new senior minister was identified and installed, took a year. Now get this. On that first graphic in the matrix, the Wachowskis know this because Robertson helped them get the work. In that first graphic, I'm not expecting you to be able to see this. It's in upside down when they first shoot it, the first scene shot, first graphic in the matrix. I'll just flash it up if anyone wants a freeze frame. What you have is my high school. We said this. My high school, my name, my Scottish clan name, my birthday, my fiance's birthday, March 11th. My dad's name, my birthday above her, my fiance's birthday, all there. And so what's so interesting about this graphic is the name Anderson. Robertson's people rejoiced that the case was thrown because their insider, Judge Friedman, made sure it was destroyed and no evidence presented and records destroyed. But we know that David Gerhardson, the name of the pastor that came forward was David Anderson. So they put my names together to mock it. Thomas A. Anderson is mocking the whole cover-up with Pat Robertson, showing the connection between the cabal, studios, FBI, and Robertson evangelical religious right, all connected in a single graphic where they also put 9/11 on the next page and Operation Northwoods there. CIA, FBI, religious right, Italian mafia, Jewish mafia, Hollywood studios, all part of this graphic. Tied together in getting away with what they think they'll get away with, except upside down for a split second, who's going to notice? The insider at the story department contacts the author and tells him it's all there and what to look for. But the insider from the story department didn't even realize it was the fiance's birthday as Neo's birthday. I always wondered, why wasn't my birthday Neo's birthday? Is they going to get away with it? They wanted to put my fiance's birthday. Why? Because O.T. Cabal, Senator David Boren's niece, senior senator at the time, had left me with Disney's enticements. And I was a broken man.
Senator Boren?
Senator David Boren.
David Boren, who has been given his reward to be president of Oklahoma University. This is Yale Skull and Bones David Boren.
That's right. So that's the family that was handling me. His own niece. I was engaged to be married into the family. They raised.
We've covered that before. And just to explain, we've also covered this before. It sounds surreal and sensational that your personal details have been repeatedly woven in not just The Matrix, but a host and myriad of other projects there in Hollywood. No, Tom does not have delusions of grandeur. This is a calculated agenda to incite paranoia in the
Yes.
victim. So if the
Well-
victim's constantly seeing personal details in movies and television and cartoons, et cetera, this feeds the paranoia, so that when they swat him for the 50th time, whether it's Robertson or his sister or anybody else that says he's crazy and he's got a gun, happen to you repeatedly, they finally have some purchase in your psychological profile. Because, oh, even better, if you tell the cops, if you tell the jackbooted SWAT assholes at your door that the reason why you're so upset is because, see this, here's my birthday in this movie, and so boom, bye-bye.
They take you off to 302, you put you away with the criminally insane because you say you even wrote it, even though you have, what do you have? You have this. The copyrighted screenplay and the date preceding Matrix. They haul you off anyway. And you're absolutely right. That was well articulated. Well said. Can I share a graphic with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I just
Share
don't
screen.
understand what it is that there's some kind of spiritual something that's protecting you, Tom, that has you've been emotionally assassinated through your sister, your daughter, and 2 wives. You've had 2 sons murdered, but yet here you are, fortunately, with 1 more son under your care. I really have no other explanation.
They're stupid. Why did the author write the work? Why did I write the work? Because you matter. I care about life and people. So therefore, a person with compassion and tremendous empathy is a stupid person to take on, because they're not going to give up at any time, no matter what you throw and what you take.
By the way, Guyertson, not to step on you, Guyertson's resume is still hanging on the internet to this at this very minute.
Did you see confidential at the bottom?
Hang
Still
on.
there?
That's why it's public on the public internet, easily accessed, not locked down in any way.
That's something. Yeah. See, what I'm told is that the reason I was alive in the original screenplay, Johnny, the architect keeps Neo alive because he has plans for him. The Wachowskis didn't know what to make of that, so they just ripped everything, all the visuals out, and made it up as they went along, but hoping to use up the rest of the stories, they say. And the architect would not allow Smith to take him out in my story. And Smith was enraged about it. In fact, when he downloads the memories of Smith to find the Cortex building in the dome, he is looking for memories that he doesn't know what he's looking for in Smith's memories, which they put in the Sense8 after they threw the case. The Wachowskis put in when they said they wouldn't even write a word down. It was too big to write down, they said, as soon as they threw the case, using the same idea. So my character identifies the dome as the building he needs to go to, because he realized that there was a lot of anger in the memory around Smith that he was getting about that building, because he was never allowed to see it. So that's how he determines that's the important building. He was never allowed to see it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a dynamic that we are unaware of here, Doc, in relation to something going on. For my research, and I don't know that this is the case. I'm just going to give you an example, and Doc, I want your input. What will happen sometimes is they will take a targeted individual and go after them and be skunked in some way. Let's use an extreme example. Taking someone's life is the extreme example. They have just a whole host of other things they do first: ruin you, make you paranoid, et cetera, et cetera. Killing you is the, that's just the extreme example. Let's just say that this was the case. And after like the 3rd attempt of something weird thwarting their plans to kill you, they finally realize that there's some sort of hedge of protection, and they now have to switch tactics and go after other targets, maybe targets around you, family members, etc. I'm not saying that has occurred. I'm saying that that's I've seen that as a pattern in the past. Doc, you have any take on any of this?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I think we've seen this with other individuals, I think, right? Or, but yeah, Tom, do you still feel like to this day they are kind of like watching you?
You still feel being your targeted individual?
I mean, Absolutely. That's one of the things they try to use to put me away. They say, oh, he thinks organizations are out to get him. It's like, well, they're the ones saying they are out to get. And it's like the sister's bragging that she's going to do another 302. She says she's going to get away with it, and she's going to get bigger rewards than she ever got before. And that includes being entered into the anals, I'll call it, of congressional records, So it's like the anal cavity of that. So it's like, that's what she got with Johnny found, the footage of him showing on the floor of Congress right after the 302 attempts. So she's saying she's going to try it again. So all these people were bought in. They can't untangle the web. They've got all these people paid off, bought in, and everything else, and they don't want them speaking. So they have to keep this alive somehow. And my understanding is that they invested a lot in me. And so since I survived, they're actually fans of the work. They're concerned about the other screenplays. Believe it or not, the large majority of the cabal is concerned about the other intellectual property that they could benefit from and the tech in it. That's why I found the solution in my case to bury without staples, without paper clips. They're actually zip tied in the ground in an undisclosed location, and they'll never see them. And that's a tape I have of Disney Contact saying, you can't do that. That I said I would destroy the work if anything happened to Aiden, my last surviving son. And that's when they simply concentrated, instead of death, on try to scare, try to let you know you are targeted, like that comment that's on tape where they said that cars pull up out front, like happened to the poor lady who rescued her kids at the Texas school shooting, and the police do that to her. They'll pull up and they say the reason these cars pull up, and if a neighbor reports it and says, these cars are doing this, the police will say they're not doing anything wrong. The reason is, they say on tape, the contact from Disney, is because they know you're concerned for your last son's safety. And it's to show that they can get to him anytime they want. There you go. So they keep the constant threat alive. A very good question by both of you. They keep the threat constantly alive. Now keep this in mind. I want to point this out. If you are a severe, high-level targeted individual, you will not, if you're a man, still be married to a beautiful woman. It will not happen. It will never happen. You can call up cases. If a man says to be targeted and has a beautiful wife, he is not targeted. Because the isolation playbook, it says, isolate, alienate, cut off any support system whatsoever, and break the man. They will not allow you to have that. She'll be inundated with prank calls, contacts, people coming up, saying get away. It won't happen. It will not happen. And I'll set my life on that statement, that it doesn't happen. So anybody in the future you see saying, I have a beautiful wife and I'm targeted, nada. It does not happen. You must be a low-level target then.
Yeah, sadly, your first wife herself was targeted and broken down, and your second wife was fabricated from the beginning.
She was Mike Lang's
to
prodigy.
Be a honeypot to destroy you.
And that's what to watch for, criminal records on them, criminal records. And they'll keep those sexual activity alive. They're a prostitute. They'll keep it alive during your whole time. And there'll be condoms showing up in your backyard, in your car. They'll have a change of clothes in the car. They'll have a
Disney executive will call you bragging that he had sex with your ex-wife.
Exactly. That's it. Stupid moves, very stupid moves. And,
go ahead, Doc. You trying to add something?
Not another question. I was thinking, like, if Tom knows like any other individual like from that time, like, or anyone who was also under the influence of Robertson, and if there was anything bad that happened to them, or there, like,
yes.
Do you have any stories
good
like
question.
that?
Very good question. In fact, one of the ones that surfaced right away, and it raises the Jerry Falwell specter again of what just happened with the pool boy. The pool boy at Jerry Falwell's, and I'll get to your question, remind me if I drift away from it, is the one that accepted the offers. He accepted the offers and kept it quiet about the homosexual activity between him and Jerry Falwell Jr. Jerry Falwell Jr. wasn't watching his wife have sex. He was actually engaged in it, like Sova's situation. You hire the man to have sex with you and your wife. And that's what Sova was going to do. That's what he's doing. All
right, let me highlight and underline that. Because that is so critical to understanding how media is owned and manipulated. We have said this so many times before. If the media puts out a story that scientists are making groundbreaking experiments cloning a mouse, count on your neighbor being a clone. If the news report is Jerry Falwell Jr. like to watch the pool boy having the pretty priest-bait pool boy having sex with his wife. The real story is so much worse than that he was actually having sex with Jerry.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Tom.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have invested in all that. He wouldn't have done that. He could have just hired a man to come to have sex with his wife. He wouldn't have him given a job, promoted, everything else, unless Jerry's getting something big out of it. And then he tries to argue he never showed up. Well, there's a girl named Dee Dee Henderson. Dee Dee Henderson was approached by Silver before I was in Disney World. Now, a guy named Danny Corrales, who has his own pictures in Texas, sold me out. He said he was coming in to be 100% with me and told me about Dee Dee Henderson. So we met her at a diner after the event that happened to me. Dee Dee Henderson, bless her heart, said she would not help me, not get involved, that she's benefited off of Sova after all this happened, so she'll let it happen to others. And she went on to keep it closed down. That's what happens. They'll even buy you off after they've approached you. Even after you've gone through it, they'll pay you. They'll pay you to allow others to go through it. So I am not a fan of Dee Dee Henderson, wherever you are now, and also the pool boy, who benefited so much from Jerry Falwell Jr. for so long, and then thinks he could come out like some kind of hero at the end.
You know what, Tom? That to me smacks of a higher manipulation. I think what was going on is they targeted Falwell Jr. They targeted Falwell to take a fall at a very strategic moment. So they went and they dug the pool boy up. And when the FBI says, you need to come out and capitalize off of this, go public, because we are going to use this to hit our boy Trump, who's also on the team. But Trump desperately needs a bump. And so we're going to attack him and thereby give him a bump. So I do not think that the pool boy has the courage or the smarts to say, I know, I'll go play double agent and I'll go ahead and screw everybody. No, I fully expect. Doc, you agree with that?
Yeah. So you don't know of anyone who kind of raised their voice against this cabal,
then fill in a knife 14 times after that?
There was a woman who was part of their Mideast broadcasting system that said she was also assaulted, and she did a law case and never heard of her again. So I don't know what that entailed. But usually the thing is, the rewards are so big to stay on board, unless you're sexually assaulted directly by one of their main players like Robertson himself, which I'm told I was being geared to be Robertson's main boy in the sex ring. That's why I was to be the face of the Christian Coalition, because I'd be working, they said, directly with Pat Robertson on 700 Club, everything else, flying wherever he went. I was to be his little feast and smorgasbord. And at the time, if you saw what I looked like I was 12 years old. Blue eyes, dimples, bright smile, a very attractive young man at that time. So I was his look. I was his boy. And that's what I kept being told. And when they first told me that kind of stuff, I thought, well, I'm his kind of guy to lead the ship. I'm the kind of guy he wants to. I didn't realize it was more to that. It was more like his dish, his taste, the flavor of the ice cream.
Who was the CBN Robertson priest bait?
Oh, yeah, I forgot his name.
I have two.
A priest at Robertson's Grove?
No, I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Priest bait, a young, good-looking guy that Robertson groomed. You were going to take his job, and you didn't. I can't remember his. Very big back in the 80s and 90s.
The Ralph Reed kind of thing?
That exactly what it was. Yeah. It was Ralph Reed.
He replaced me. I was supposed to be it. I didn't play ball, and so I had to be destroyed, and he was supposed to get whatever I was to have. So, the Christian Coalition. Face of the Christian Coalition.
Let me see if I can get original. Okay. All right. Here we go. So here's. Oh, Tom, that's just so outrageous. Let's get it. Let's get an old picture of young Ralph Reed. Let's see. Hang on. Here we go. Here he is in a suit and tie when he was, I think he was 15 in this picture.
Like 30.
Right.
If you see my picture, let me see if I can find it while you're talking.
Pull it up and share. No, let me give you, make sure that you have rights to share it.
Predators will have the same taste, the same type, right?
Tom, it's not that hard. It's a man that looks like a boy. I mean, it's the pederast.
Well, that's it too. Yeah, but if I can find this, let me see if I can locate. Keep talking, and I'll see if I can find
Sure.
this particular item, because I think you need to see this. I think you need to see this, what I look like, and I think that really the visual will bring it home. So I'm going to see if I can find this thing. Okay, here we go. Where are you?
I'll just go ahead and remark that the cutouts in that ancient Greek circular shield are for a lance or a spear. You hold the shield in tight to your body and put the lance or the spear in there, and it allows you to be protected as you wield the
Absolutely
the lance
correct.
and the spear. Keeps your opponent at a distance. Go ahead, Doc.
That's
On
absolutely
the Time magazine cover within.
Say again.
I sent in the chat image of Half Reed's Time magazine, the right hand of God.
Yeah, but Falwell Jr. is still getting. Oh, perfect. Falwell Jr. is still getting propaganda coverage under the official story that, you know, it was just one of those things. This is they do this. They did this with Trump. Oh, see that? Trump was acting like a pig with Playboy models. Oh, come on. What construction worker wouldn't just adore Trump even more? No, he's raping little boys just like everybody else. He paid $30 million to the families of 3 little boys for raping them. So he's had sex, seduced, and had sex with his own daughter. Okay, this is who all the Christians go and lay their hands on. This is who Robertson and Tony Perkins and all these frauds have endorsed. He's the ultimate Christian hero, right?
right. Absolutely. And I one of his things I wanted to bring up too that he had said is that if you are very, very wealthy, God has blessed you. And if you're not wealthy, then the non-wealthy, the others, are jealous of those that are blessed by God. He actually talked about that. And I think it's just,
Before I leave this, Tom, Doc, did you notice the detail on the cover? Meet Ralph Reed, 33.
33.
that's how old I was too when I was writing the thing, and this was all going on when everything took off. So I'm trying to find the actual, I mean, the picture that I have is just so incredible as a matchup to him. And I'm having trouble finding that one. But what I do have is a black and white of me at the time. And you can see me looking, but it's not the same thing, but it may be a go. But I also want to show you that Otika one where you said about David Boren and Oklahoma University and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something for that also.
Otika Ball.
Yeah, Otika Ball. Now she's Otika Boyston, or Otika Bernard now. And they basically made her disappear and actually changed her birthday on records. So, yeah, they made her disappear.
Yeah, I can't find anything on that lawsuit.
Yeah, they erased the records. They erased it. They got away with it, so they erased it. Okay, I'm going to pull something up for you.
Pull it up, and Doc has something to add. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah,
go first.
Ask Tom, like, it's safe to say that the guys like Robertson, like, they're the real racists, right? Because I don't think you prefer work with black boys, right? Only blue-eyed
right
guys, right?
Again, it goes down to his sexual taste, is what you're looking at. Really, what it comes down to often is that. So I'm just taking one more look here. To see
no little boys from Haiti for them. They take those poor Haiti boys and ship them all over the world instead.
Right. That's for other people. So it's very, very sad. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip this one. I cannot find it right now. I wish I found it.
Yeah,
it's just scary how it looks like Ralph Reed. How it looked like Ralph Reed. And again, it was to be the face of the Christian coalition, right? So I'm going to go to share screen if I may, and I want to show
And you know
something.
what, Tom? That's also, by the way, that is code. When you have someone, a young and attractive, appealing young man, for the general public, that's, oh, wow, he's good looking. And then for all the other insider pederasts, a pederast is an adult male that lusts after young boys. That's also a grab or bait, so that they know. It's almost like a secret. It's almost like holding your hands in a secret gesture while posing for Time magazine.
Right, exactly. It's just amazing. I think I might have a thing here where, let me see if it shows up on this one image composite. I didn't want to give up on it, but you make the best points. It's so great to be back on here with you because, I mean, you just really hit home all the time, and I've missed that. It's really, really great. All right, let's go to share screen. I'll show you the one thing I have, if that's okay.
God, you should have rights to do it. Go ahead.
All right, so here I go. Okay, share screen, going to share. All right, are you on my screen?
I see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's one. It doesn't do it justice, but here is a picture of me after I was to be the face of the Christian Coalition.
Yeah, it looks like a Hollywood casting. It looks like you're in a lineup to be selected for a movie role.
Yeah, Otika Ball, Senator David Bourne took that picture with another woman, and they were, taking the pictures of me. They always did photo shoots of me.
Wow.
So she was taking photo shoots of me at the time. Now, here's what's interesting going along with the line Otika Ball. So we go to the thing in Man in the High Castle, and this is another one to slap. It's always about slap the face of the author, right? And so I don't know if I showed you this, but look at the face. This is actually I don't have the picture. Do I have Otika? 1 second, just 1 second, real quick. I'm going to show you Otika's picture. Okay, so here is Otika at the time. So that's Otika. All right, so look at the lady in the picture. Now, get what's in this composite here. So the Wachowskis were actually given the work when Otika was enticed away. So when she left in 95, 96, that's when the Wachowskis were given the work. When I submitted in 93, they're given the work finally, and they said they got mansions in Hollywood. So here we have, look at the nickname, Teak, T-E-I-K. That's what we called her, Teak, right? So Teak, and you can see Otika in there. Teak, OKU State. Otika went for drama to Oklahoma State University. So you have OKU State, Teak, and the clock above is 7-2 backwards. The looking glass mirror, 7-2 backwards. My birthday backwards. So here's my birthday on the clock in Animatrix, 7-2-59. And you have 7-2 backwards on the clock in Man in the High Castle, which means distress. It's like the flag upside down in distress. Tom Althouse was in distress when they took Otika. She's at a train station leaving. Teak, from Oklahoma State University, was leaving, and that's when they give the work to the Wachowskis. They're celebrating in this graphic, I'm told. Isn't it amazing?
It's appears to be a relatively common name used in marketing. So
now it is, yeah. And look at this. Remember I told you backwards? They're big about the backwards. Okay, so you've got here's Animatrix, where they started the whole thing of 7-2. It's in everything from advertising, you name it, 7-2. So look at this. You've got 7-2-59, and then in Walking Dead, they put 7-2-59 exactly backwards. See how I reversed it here on the clock? So they put it backwards, A Life in Distress. Now this is held up when his son is killed. So Rick Grimes' son is killed, his life is over, and the clock shows not his birthday, but my birthday backwards. So it's just unbelievable. And share right there.
Doc, you're trying to jump in. Go ahead.
No, yeah, so it's amazing.
It's too much.
But it's someone that told you about it, because I imagine.
Yes, I'm told. I have contacts on the inside. They're counting on us winning. They're actually counting on us winning this. And so and in fact, if you go to the Disney tape, the Disney attorney says on the tape, "You've won the chess game. You won the chess game." I'm like, "Well, how? What did I win?" You did interviews, you got the word out. They figure that word out means in time, there's no way to last. And that's when studios started selling out to Disney, MGM and others. MGM, I think, did the deal where it was cash and credit all at the same time. Within 10 minutes, they sold out. And other studios selling out. Back to the mothership, who Mike Lang was put in charge over Harvey Weinstein by Michael Eisner to head the copyright theft of what they called the revolutionary script, the Science Project. And they was put in place exactly when I submitted in 93. So, and what happened when my honeypot wife left me, and we found out she had all those criminal warrants and had been in jail and ex-con, it was Mike Lang's email on my birthday, July 2nd, like Johnny was pointing out about how birthdays line up. July 2nd, emails are being sent in mass to Becca saying, move in with him for 60 days in his mistress pad. So it's like And those things were struck from our devices with a green robot. We have a picture of the green robot struck.
Stream out.
And
Hey, Tom,
yeah.
not to step on you or change your
Oh, I'm done.
thought, but do you think that as one more, this cover is just so loaded? Good old Knight of Malta, Henry Luce's Time magazine, the right hand of God. Ralph Reed, 33, his Christian coalition is on a crusade to take over U.S. politics. Could he be any more Jesuit? Do you think, Tom, this is just speculation, and we probably shouldn't, but actually I think we should.
Why not?
Do you think that Ralph played ball? Do you think that one of the reasons why he succeeded you is because he said, yeah, sure, let's go have a good time? And
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. It was the requirement for me to get position. And he replaced me.
he's a fraud to this day. He's still a figure. He's still a figure and a figurehead in Christian politics, and that's his foundation. Is that any different from the casting couch of Hollywood, where you go and all of the huge names started on their knees or on their back in Hollywood, and yet now they're just untouchable. They're just so glory. And what they Tom, what did we just say? Doc, go ahead.
He was rewarded with, so Wikipedia says his wife is 35 years old and he's 62 now. So he was rewarded with.
Are you kidding me? The icon of Christian politics, and his wife is literally over 30 years younger.
Sorry. They married 87. I thought she was born
his
in
wife
87.
of 30 some odd years.
Yeah,
Does it say her
that's my
name?
mistake.
What is her name?
Is Joanne? What is? Also Joanne Young, I think. Joanne Young.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because they provide your wife often. And like I don't know if I told you that before, where the woman came up to me, the girl came up to me, very beautiful girl. Like they're casting a show. Who looks good with you? They want to make sure you're with somebody who looks good with you on the camera, right? So they cast a wife for me at the time. They cast a woman and she was beautiful. And when I was cut, she actually found me out. It was like some kind of movie. She came up and said, I can't be with you now. I can't be with you. As if she actually wanted to go along with it. So I was like, wow, that's a compliment. But it was like, she actually told me that it was, I never dated her, never knew who she was before. So, yeah.
I've got an example I'm pulling up right now. Of exactly what we've been talking about. I did a story in 2017. Jennifer Lawrence, a big Me Too personality, and I have this cleavage on purpose, came out. She's a big Me Too personality of the injustice, what Hollywood does to these poor women and poor girls, and a news story was here's the so-called page 6. She admits that she had to do a casting call and stand nude in front of a female producer, but nothing more. She just took her clothes off for another woman, and that's all that happened. So what really happened is just let your mind run rampant. Much, much, much worse to put her on the map. She's one of the highest paid, most popular actresses in Hollywood. So just another example. And in particular, these women, I think of Scarlett Johansson too. Scarlett Johansson making a big stink about how her Marvel character has been sexualized. Okay, how did you get where you are right now? But this Me Too is absolute cover for these female actresses and men too that do the same thing. Men that allow themselves to be used by men, women that allow themselves to be used by men, and women too. And it's nothing more than cover for those who are already compromised. So I just felt that this was a great example of what you already said, Tom.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, I'm glad you brought that up, is that it's sort of a competition pool. Once you're thrown in as a minnow into the tank, the sharks come swimming. And it's like you'll get calls from men asking your height, your weight, kind of stuff. And it's like, there's no loyalty among the circle and the sex ring. and they just start coming at you like crazy. And then it's like this hierarchy of whose boy is he. Even though I did not comply, but I was forced into this, and lost everything as a result of it, I still know the inner workings of what was going on. Your property, your slave property.
Yep. Yep. I don't know. I know that my friend and co-host Bill Munsell is telling me that he's pissed because he's missing this. I'll tell him you're still here. He really wanted to see you. Let's see here. All right. Let us, if anything else that you have on Pat Robertson, otherwise you have some things to catch us up on in relation to whether or not we're never going to have justice for your sons, but we may have some sort of headway for you getting credit for the Matrix.
Well, I do have the letter of instruction part of it, so it's kind of interesting. And the Paul Mansheim, I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but Paul Mansheim letter of instruction signed by their attorneys. What's interesting is the law firm Huffpool Mahoney that Robertson used hired my attorney's partner. Can't do that in the middle of the case. They hired him and had access to the storage area, which he called the vault, and they raided it as soon as he was hired. So this guy named Charles Dandridge Pittman was hired by Huffpool Mahoney. And I pointed that out in the court trial, and they go, I think you're mistaken, and moved on. I'm like, no, he's part of the law firm. They actually go that far where blatantly they'll do anything in order to get their way. But Robertson basically gave the orders top down that I was to be destroyed, and that's it. And they'll even destroy personalities like the doctor who had actually saved me from being shut away. They even block medical records. So when they do these 302s, they won't let you have the records. They won't let you have body cam footage from the police, anything. It's kind of like, didn't happen. So after they
that
fail,
sounds like Paul Pelosi's mansion.
Yeah, they do over. So yeah, but I found that quite disturbing. But this is the article too of where I did America's Most Wanted on the season premiere of America's Most Wanted, in the Virginia pilot, of course. And that's where Walsh and the top FBI guys took me to dinner, since it was the season premiere, #1 show, and gave me the card that said from the sheriff's department, please extend every courtesy to Tom Althouse. And that's where you learn about the power of the inside, where you get away with anything. You flash that card, scot free. All you got to do is bend over for whoever.
Literally, we've done whole shows on child trafficking and Irish Catholic John Walsh and how he was in on it. And he's got one of his children, his surviving children, saying that he's an extreme pedophile.
Yeah. My honeypot wife at the time, Rebecca Northcutt, she said, you should have complied with SOBA. You should have complied with Robertson. You should have gone along with it. And told me that it's the laws of nature that they operate on, that the weak are consumed as food by the strong. And that's the way. And she was wanting to order human meat from India. It was unbelievable. She was just this monster mentality. The only book she ever downloaded was 48 Ways of Power or something, where it says about, keep both thrones and then pick the winning throne and kill the one you're behind both, take out the weaker one, and you're sure to succeed. Unbelievable. Machiavelli on steroids. So what you have is she also was saying they will never take me because I'm too compassionate. I will never succeed in Hollywood because I will not play their game and focus on how they think, their mind mentality. I'm too nice.
Doc, didn't they grab? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, here it is. And so if you type in babies in gold foil confiscated at the airport, the vast majority of returns are, oh, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No, it happened. Babies wrapped in gold foil confiscated in Thailand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're big on the idea of, it's interesting. Another thing about target individuals, just made me think of it. A target individual, a honeypot wife, when they come to you, in the relationship, they'll confess to being a witch. They'll usually say white witch, but they will tell, every time they'll do this, they'll say they're a witch. And that's part of, I guess, the prerequisite of being this criminal record, witchcraft, And the reason she was so apt to destroy men, she's claimed that in another life she had been crucified as a witch for speaking her mind. And so therefore, I guess she was back here with a vengeance. She would do whatever for gain and instant rewards, she said. So, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, have you seen like minor children involved with Pat Robertson? Was usually he would go for
Pat Robertson himself liked young, boyish-looking men. Now, there's a clue. If he likes men that look really boyish, he likes boys.
Yes, yeah.
So, but he can't give a boy a job. The cover story for them is, we gave you a job. You were simply working for us. So, and good jobs. So you're supposed to look ungrateful and that you're just trying to get back and you're just jealous because actually he took care of you, spoiled you in a corporate way. So that's their cover story. But I would say, yes, he liked young boys because he only could hire those that he could legally get away with as being seen as men.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. One of the interesting things,
They have to save the actual boys for like Bohemian Grove, but the young men, as long as you're an adult, they can play their games and put their curtains up and have you work, and then close the doors at the office and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. There's many of the advice you get is go along with it. You'll succeed. You can look back later and it'll be worth it. Ends justify the means. You'll hear this kind of stuff. And it's like, so there's not many that have said no. And they'll cover rather than reveal. But keep in mind that at Robertson's organization, all these individuals, including top people, said they were keeping journals that they would benefit, like I said, benefit off of Robertson for as long as it lasted. And then they'll benefit off of revealing him later. So look for journals to start surfacing or people disappear from Robertson's organization now because the gold rush is over.
Right.
There was an Indian pastor, a very famous pastor. After he died, these allegations of abuse just surfaced. So, Ravi Zacharias, right?
Always after they're dead, Tom. Always after they're dead. My favorite example is Jimmy Savile, just an absolute demon, just a serial pedophile monster who was given the right of way, who was enabled by the government of Great Britain, by the BBC, taxpayer-funded news and broadcasting, by the Roman Catholic Church, because nobody knew that Jimmy Savile was a hyper-devout daily Mass Roman Catholic. Daily Mass Roman Catholic who was a serial child raper. And no one knew until well after Jimmy was dead. Then the brave journalist could come out and make a statement. But of course, nothing was ever done by cops or prosecutors or judges. That's the pattern always.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting what you raised too, also, Johnny, both of you. One of the things Sova said to me on the trip, I think is very revealing. He said he thought I was gay because I had a beard and I was in theater. So here you have the.
Don't tell that to John Paul. Don't tell it to our friend and co-host John Paul.
Yeah, so
he's an actor with a beard.
Yeah, so Hollywood's connection with Robertson is very clear. The sex ring is shared with Disney. Where did Sova's people go after Robertson gave his own letter that damns him, and the Sova letter that we have? Where did they all go for their vacation and trip to have a paid for trip for the staff that were involved in my demise? Disney World. Michael Eisner had them all come down to Disney World, and Sova and the rest of the pedophiles all went to Disney World for their trip paid for by Michael Eisner. They bragged about this in Sova's motorhome. So it gives you a clue for how close this is all connected and why Eisner is scrambling for his legacy and why Pat Robertson is trying to cover his legacy. They try to do a big funeral thing, I'm told. They're trying to do a big thing where his legacy is assured. But I have a suspicion, since the screenplay talks about the architect not dying, but being put into cryogenics because he wanted to cheat death, I would not be surprised. And I'm going on a limb, I know it, that Robertson would be following the story because he claims that I screwed up his whole, what God promised him, that he'd be president. So he prophesied through Bush, proxy through Bush, because the Sova affair, caused his presidency to be lost. But he wrote the book anyway, saying that God told him he'd be president. God was going to make him president, even after he wasn't president. He was so enraged that he didn't get it, but he blames me. And that's why, now we're going to see some differences where the glue that held all this conspiracy together has just been put into a box, whether it's one that's being electronically preserving him like Disney or Walt, or he's actually in a box. It'll be interesting to see.
It's just delaying the inevitable, Tom. I can promise Pat that he's not frozen in carbonite like Han Solo. Just delaying the inevitable. So in hindsight, if there was a lawsuit, then yes, I can see how they could blame you for the destruction. Listen, Robertson, I don't think that Robertson was ever cleared to be puppet president of the United States. He can blame whoever he wants. He was never cleared for that. In the same way that, by example, Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. Supposedly is a Democrat favorite to become the next Republican president. Not going to happen. And the same thing with what's his name there in Florida. All these puppets that they're going to have someone who is much more controlled, whether it's Trump to come back or Biden or whoever. So
maybe it could be dangerous to put like a phony pastor in the presidency.
Great point, Doc. If you put up a phony who supposedly has to be a right winger, them pretending to be what they are is enough harm to their agenda that they will not allow that to occur, which is probably what Robertson would have to have had. Some minor accomplishment somewhere, as opposed to Trump that did 4 years and had nothing to brag, nothing. My father-in-law, we had prosperity and we had nothing. Names, places, and dates. How about some facts? This is just nothing more than fantasy and emotion. All right, give me the law that was passed. By the way, he's not a legislator; he just signs laws. What laws were passed? What regulations did he chop? What bureaucracies did he chop? What did he remove that was good? Facts, names, places, and dates.
Right. They don't operate that way. You look at Robertson's letter again. Trusted people say. One person said he would stake his life. What does that mean? And that's how they operate. They pull things out of the air and out of their cheeks. That's it.
Fabricated, Tom. The myth of what a great Christian, the myth that he was, any of this, the Falwell's Moral Majority, the Christian Coalition. Oh, wow. What is it? The family, the Council for National Policy, I think it is. Is that right? The Council for National Policy? Yes. The secret Christian secret society, the family, right? I think it's Council for National Policy.
Focus on the family, right?
What is it, Don?
Focus on the family?
No. The Council for National Policy is supposedly, Christian Freemasons, the secret society behind the scenes. It's just the powerhouse in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, they have done nothing of substance. They have accomplished nothing. Oh, I'm sorry. They filled the Supreme Court with Catholics. Okay? I swear it's the Council for National Policy. Let me double check that. But go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, as far as their slander campaign, and do the slander campaign they have, but they targeted many different individuals this way, and they have what we call anonymouses, where they're paid. They're actually started out in our situation as ex-security guards for Robertson. So they still carry their badge around, and they're employed and given a salary like $30,000, $40,000 to go and just ruin your life. And it's like they'll go live where you're living. They'll smash your truck's window. They'll break in, cut the brake cord. That's their job, and it makes them giddy, basically. And so what you have is I have a transcript from.
Hang on, let me give you a big picture. Hold on, I'm sharing that. It is Council for National Policy. Go ahead, Tom.
So, Kirsten Leslie was the one that Spielberg's guy Peter, best friend, went for and said, "Here's the casting couch. If you come to Hollywood and have sex with me, you'll have dinner with Spielberg, and also you'll get to be in Sweet Charity as a lead in Hollywood." So, and she went for it, and that's one of my classmates or housemates that was with me with Otika. And so before she had gone, though, she had done an interview or gone talk to a Darlene Graves, one of Sova's best friends at Robertson's organization, Darlene and Michael Graves. And in it, to show I should have, of course they won that case, they go on and on about the slander. And 5 times in this transcript, you'll hear her say, the law sees it differently. Don't let him know that we're talking about him. And she goes, there was some, he's carrying a gun around threatening that he owned it. And, students shoot professors every day. We got to protect ourselves. This is the same language my sister's now using. When she got bought by Robertson, she did a 180. And now she says, Tom's going to shoot me. He's carrying a gun around. He's waving it around. What does that even mean, waving a gun around? I've done how many interviews? Hundreds, and I've never waved a gun around. And I don't even carry a gun. But it's like they use the same language all these like decades later. Same language that Robertson instituted when you're bought. You have a script. And so it's very interesting that would be all they say. They'll say that, give her credentials, and you're put away for that. It's amazing. So yeah.
She went and had sex with the Jew producer, and surprise, surprise, didn't get the role anyway.
Yeah, she didn't get it. Kirsten didn't get what she wanted in the end.
All right, very important lesson for anyone that thinks they can compromise and sleep their way to success. Not everyone can be Kamala Harris. Okay,
yeah, she wasn't even attracted to him, but she wanted that fame. So
she gave up her body, and guess what? They gave her nothing anyway.
Right, absolutely.
Very valuable lesson. Don't compromise, because it's not worth it, and many times you don't get it anyway. What are you going to do? Are you going to say you were raped? No, it was consensual.
That's it. And then they try to make it piecemeal, where they come forward later and say that they had been treated badly, they were approached and everything, and they were going to reveal it. Well, why'd you wait so long? For those that were capitalizing off the system, why'd you wait so long? Like the pool boy at Jerry Falwell. Why?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems like
now he was told, Tom, he was told by the FBI and by the government, hey, you're going to go ahead and go public now, because we have a use for that. We have a purpose in that right now.
You're on everybody. And one of the things they do to even us that are clean, that actually did everything right, they still accuse us of having dirty hands. The lawyer term, dirty hands. What dirty hands? We lost everything because we were holding true. At least give us the dignity that we didn't do wrong.
Rose McGowan comes to mind, by the way. I covered her in Eaters of Children, another damaged goods, someone that certainly started off just volunteering her body, and then now wants to be Me Too and women's rights.
I don't approve of her. I don't approve of what she's doing. She's trying to win it both ways. She should have been there when it mattered to so many people. What she should have done is entered her entry instead of appearing everywhere and trying to benefit from appearances, and just say, here's my part of the story, instead of trying to benefit that way too. Too many people have been harmed where she should have stepped forward long before, where she was benefiting instead.
No one, but Tom, if she came forward, if she did the right thing from the very beginning, no one would have heard of her.
That's
Rose
true.
who?
That's true.
So okay, give us. We've been going for, let's see, how long have we been going? Wow. Hour and 40 minutes just flew by. Give us the update of where you're at.
Book. I am working on the book like a fiend, like a banshee.
Documentary. Where's the documentary?
Documentary's in process, but I'm also working on the book, and that has allowed me finally to find a framework that works as an author, which is the same as I did with the immortal screenplay, Whispering Through Art. So Yotika's dad actually was a wonderful man, Dr. Ball, who advised me, write in third person. So I'm writing this book where you get excerpts, snippets. It covers all the material by taking the author's mind and going back to past events, back to the present, back to past events. So you actually live the experience and get to understand exactly what it is, all this material, what it's like, and where your mind goes when you've been in this situation. And I think that's going to be a useful tool to people. And so that's where I'm looking at, again, as a service-oriented project. And it's going to work. And I encourage writers to act that way. So the book I'm very, very excited about. The documentary team is definitely a bang it out team. And they've been approached so many number of times. So it's a documentary, book, you name it. And that will lead to, I think, speaking engagements later too, further ones, where we'll actually go to events and speak, not just online. But I'm appreciating the hosts that have done it.
Yeah, it's always great to catch up with you, Tom, and also to inch our way towards some sort of justice and recognition. I honestly, Tom, I got to tell you, brother, I don't think the threat of your future screenplays being lost to them is the big picture reason why you are still alive and still breathing. There's something else going on. I know that you had shared that Jesus Christ was the hero of your Matrix, and I can't help but think that there's some kind of unseen spiritual factors going on in the background as to why they have come at you so hard, and yet here you are and still exposing them as you are. So
I agree with you. There's definitely a word on the inside that says don't touch. They're a divided force right now. And I've been told that Disney actually has been considering, Bob Iger and the rest, to try to bring me home again. But I will not accept script doctoring to steal other people's works, where that's been the offer before from them. So the idea is that I will do work and I'll help others do work. But there's a divided force right now. The cabal is divided because they all were fans of the work. They all had their hands in it. I think that's part of it. Maybe that's a factor of it.
Listen, they already offered you. Let's see here. Get up. So let me pull up some websites here. They already. Oh yeah, look. They already offered. Sophia Stewart said, "Hey, listen. You can take credit for Matrix 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll just take credit for Matrix 1, okay? And we'll bring you in, and you can get some of the money, and you can be a millionaire now." No, I wrote all of it, and I'm not looking to share it with you because you're a complete and total fraud that thinks that what I wrote is about Frankenstein having sex or some kind of weird.
I know. I love
like
that you found that, and that was Warner Brothers' ploy, having her in position to handle me, that they would have control of the author in the process, just like with Terry Berliner, the Broadway director of Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, and was contracted me before I even knew the work was stolen, contracted me to work for her exclusively.
And just like they did with Kirsten Charity, would you say her last name?
Kirsten Leslie.
Leslie, I'm sorry. Just like they did with Kirsten, who's to say that once you sign the dotted line, they'll ever hold up their end of the bargain anyway? It's just
right.
There is no, your Faustian bargain, your deal with the devil. It just is not worth it ever.
No, you're dealing with whims of people that have no cohesion, that are all about power.
No morality, no ethics. Tom,
No.
I have said this repeatedly to people who are on the inside as I continue to ask them, the best thing that can happen for us is for the inside to collapse, to collapse from within, to have key people finally take their soul back.
Yes.
And
yes.
They have, as I've told them many, many times, the machine has no loyalty to you. They will break. You think that you're not allowed to break the bargain because when you break the bargain, then they'll come after you. No. They can break the bargain and have at a moment's notice for any reason or no reason. So it does not pay. Your Faustian bargain doesn't pay.
Well said. You articulate things I never heard articulated before. I love being on the show with you. You both.
Glad to have you.
Like, one of the things is the Millionaires Club is like the Viking series. It's like they're always at war with each other. They're always at war with each other. If you rise, there's jealousy under it when it's all about power. And there's always this, combatant to and fro, give and take going on that is not pleasant. So yeah, it's not a happy camper club.
Yeah, they definitely eat their own. All right, Tom, as we close out, you've already shared the update. You have a timeline, you have a publisher or a timeline for the book. Are you doing it independently or?
Getting it done right now by myself at the moment. So it's just pure. That's why I love it. It's like on a cabin with the wine and just, that's it. And the thing is also, actually not wine, but in the cabin. But the thing is also, I'm seeing a lot of effects on the other side. The more the documentary is worked on without it disclosed that there's a timing on it, the more they panic. It's like you can see there's a lot of fear. Where that head of Warner Brothers who resigned that time when they struck my website, we're coming back with a new website, and we bought the domain Project Neo Blue. So we're going to be Project Neo Blue, and it means a lot to me because the blue pill is the good pill in the original work, the red pill is the bad pill. So we're going to be coming up with that domain and new resurrected website since I struck the other one when that executive exited. And Sophia Stewart gave me the call the same day saying, yeah, your website struck, and these other hosts such as Red Pill 78 and Sarah Westall, their sites were struck the very same day. So they were very afraid of you all putting the information out. And that it's a battle. It's a battle between the groomed and the groomed that said no. So I was supposed to be Ralph Reed with all that influence and power. They see it as an investment. And instead, I'm using that position of being groomed to work to unveil what they've done. So I'm the biggest traitor in their whole cabal system, apparently.
Yeah. Wow. Doc, anything to close out with?
Yeah, just we need more guys like Tom to come out, right? And yeah, and yeah, face these people. And yeah, just adding like the most dangerous people like in society, the ones that they appear holy, right? Those pastors, priests, and they put a image outside, right, for their followers, but inside, like you see what they're able to do, right? And even destroy. So things worse than destroying like the people's bodies, right? Destroying people's relationships with God. So that's very despicable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Well put. Absolutely agree. Thoroughly agree. What we need is more like Tom, who have the courage to come forward, even though they feel that their lives are in danger and that they've been just targeted, destroyed, intimate family coming after them, being manipulated, being killed. And yet here we are trying to do the right thing. So we absolutely, with more whistleblowers like Tom, we will do the machine that much more damage. So, all right, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Keep us posted, and we'll get the next updates from you again real soon.
I appreciate it. It was great being on with you both.
All right, brother. Be blessed. Have a great day. Take care.